Herb in Abita Springs. You're on Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, talking to Gregory, James, and Jude. How can we help you, Herb?
Hi, I have actually a question concerning safety deposit boxes. I had descendants who passed away, and I'm not sure where they had their belongings at. I have contacted the state office that handles the unclaimed funds and such and found little drips and drabs there, but no one was able to help me on what happens to contents that are in safety deposit boxes when they go unpaid and or someone passes away. Can you just send me in the right direction?
I would think that has to be. Do you know that they have money in safety deposit box or?
No,
items?
they had Krugerrands and silver coins.
Okay, but you don't know where they kept them.
No.
Okay, how do you know they? Well, I'm gonna drill a little bit here for this gold. How do you know they had them?
Because, well, it was disclosed to me that they had invested in them back in the 70s and had gathered up a bunch of silver, dimes, quarters, and dollars. And I know that they existed. I've seen them. And my parents passed away, and I have searched and searched and searched and do not know what happened to them. I don't think they cashed them in.
How far back did you see them? How far back did you see them?
Oh, this is pre-Katrina.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of times expired, and I can relate to that a little bit there. And, people will sell stuff, and they might tell you about the holdings, but they don't necessarily tell you about the selling of it. And I'm relating to family situations as well, and could well be.
Okay.
And then the other thing, are you the only one that had access to looking for it? And they could have changed their mind on investing as well and decided to sell those items as well, whether they kept them at their home. And some people be surprised at how much gold they'll have around their house. But then also on the other side, if they did store it somewhere and they didn't put together a will or an inventory, and we actually have a process, we help people with that. So if something happens, then, the right people can be notified of where these things are. But that's difficult if they did have it someplace, because that's not public information and such. And I honestly, I don't know how you would find that, but if it was known, your name's probably not on that deposit box to get access. So I think that's going to probably have to go through the legal process of succession or probate, depending on what state you're in, to gain access to that, to take possession, or get that authority to issue you privileges. And that's just like retitling. We custody assets over at Fidelity Investments, and if somebody dies and they have a non-qualified account that doesn't go by beneficiary, that goes by succession process for that money to be transferred to who that's supposed to go to. And they're not, somebody can call up, well, that's my mom's money, I need it. Well, it's not going until you have a court order instructing them to do that, signed by a judge. So it has to follow this process. I hope that helps, Herb.
I understand. I've been there, done that with my father and mother. Wherever the interest rate was best, they'd put a little bit here and a little bit there. And it was a very daunting task to find all of these different places, as I was the executor of the will, and they did not really leave a list, and much was destroyed in Katrina. And I guess my follow-up question is, what is the process for the banks to deal with what is left unclaimed in safety deposit boxes?
We talked to John Schroeder about that about 2 years ago, the Louisiana State Treasurer. Do you remember this conversation, Gregory? They reported to the treasurer's office at the state level. So now
Yeah,
we're
it does
just
get turned over at a certain point in time, but you also have some of these. They don't just go telling information. Now, here's the thing about it: if they've got money stored somewhere, somebody's sending a bill on that. I doubt they paid it for years in advance, but at some point there's going to be a billing or notice regarding that. And if you have access to their financial records over the past few years, which probably should, uh, you might have some information there that helps you that, like, what's this fee from this facility? And it's not just necessarily banks, but there's other businesses that are in that business that have, safety deposit boxes, but it's not public knowledge, but, they're doing it to get a fee. The banks do it to get a fee. So I would look at financial records to get an idea if they did something like that.
all right, Herb.
Okay. I will do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jude, do you have anything to add to this? I mean, is this something that's overlapping with your business expertise at some point?
Well, my thoughts are, and I agree with Gregory, but what I typically find with, some older, and he didn't talk about the age of his parents, but so we get real set in our ways with our banking preferences. And so if he has an idea of who the bank was that might have held that safety deposit box, then I agree with Gregory. If it's within the last 7 years and you can get access on microfiche to the banking records, say if they passed away within the last 7 years, see if you can find a safety deposit box charge. But you are going to need an attorney, to either subpoena or request of that bank for all the banking records that his mom and dad had, and of course look for the safety deposit box charge, and then get the attorney to start inquiring. Well, where did the money go? If it went up to the state level, then it probably was sold. I don't see them physically loading silver dimes and quarters up to the state, so it's probably sold and transferred, and he ought to still have access to that money. So I agree with what was said, but I think it starts with what bank does he think they would have had that safety deposit box at?
I would say the high probability is where they did their banking at. Very big probability. Now, I'll go and throw something else into the mix here, because you remember when Katrina hit the New Orleans area, it made everything difficult. Banks were flooded. If you had a safety deposit box, guess what? You weren't getting to it for a while and stuff. And, I remember a credit union was holding a title to one of my vehicles I needed to do something with. And yeah, that title sat in that building a long time, so I had to get a duplicate title issued for that reason. But which makes me think of, if I'm part of my thinking on banking and saving and access to money is I need to make sure if I need it and things kind of gone to Hades in a basket, so to speak, do I need an alternative place? So that could be a reason that it might be held elsewhere or in the next community, so to speak, there. And it's just ideas out there. But I go back, like you said, where'd they do their banking? I think that's your highest probability. If they had them stored there, it was there. And when I was saying, I was relating to it also from, when my mother passed away a couple years ago, and there was a number of things being looked for. And my two sisters kind of searched everything, and there was things that they expected to be there. And it was the same thing. We knew she had it. We know this and we know this, but those items never turned up. So, it
right.
happens.
And I agree, Gregory. And the other thing that I thought of as the man was talking is how did the parents, were they alert enough to pay their bills up until the date of their death? That's a good question to ask, because sometimes as we get older, we do let things lapse and we don't pay our bills. And of course, like you said, there would have been notices or fees or charges that should have been paid by the bank or should have at least gone out sent by the bank. But the question is, really, were they alert enough to be paying their bills timely up until their date of death? And if that's the case, there ought to be records of safety deposit box charges inside of their banking records.
Here's the thing. We've seen these shows, Storage Wars or something.
Yes.
It's been a long time, but if you have stuff sitting in a storage building and it's a private business, is it like the private businesses with safety deposit boxes? Like you don't pay it, they just auction that box off? So regarding Louisiana law's abandonment of safety deposit box, and just never drilled down that far on this, had a question asked that way. And one of the things I was thinking about since then, if you're going to go through record searching, it would depend on how meticulous they were to keep records. And one thing I told about my mom is like, there wasn't any records. I don't know what she did. I guess she just felt it was all waste, clutter, took up space. There was no records kept of anything, and other things that my sisters were expecting, and that did deal with old coins, certain pieces of jewelry, some other things that was expected. They did find the safe a box, one of those fireproof box, and like surely some of that's in there. You've seen the TV show where it's the big reveal. They even videoed it. Like, okay, they found it, and they found it. Oh, we've got a key that opens it, and did the big reveal on video and sent me a copy of it. You know what was in it?
What?
Nothing.
Like nothing?
It was empty.
Oh, like nothing, like not even just a total...
Nothing.
I thought you were going to tell me it was something that was disappointing.
You remember Geraldo Rivera
Al
did
Capone's
that
vault
back in the day, and what was in that vault?
Al Capone's vault had nothing in it.
Nothing. Yeah. It was empty. So you could go and get access, go to that bank, open up that safety deposit box, and it could be empty as well. They already cleared it out. Meaning the deceased. I'm not saying there's somebody went and took the stuff and all. It's just you're expecting it, and they changed their mind or had plans for it, especially if you saw it some 30 or 40 years ago. Yeah, I saw it. It's gone. So you shouldn't worry about that stuff. I don't know. That's just my take, is to not worry about it. But Louisiana law says this: a safety deposit box leased from any bank shall be deemed abandoned, and the bank may remove the contents of such safety deposit box if the rental therefore remains unpaid as provided under subsection B of this section or pursuant to the terms of the safety deposit box contract or otherwise permitted by law. Only the safety deposit box itself and not the contents may be deemed abandoned as provided herein. Under B, they define it as the safety deposit box rental is delinquent for 6 months. The bank, after 60 days notice by mail, addressed to the leasee at his address or shown on the safety deposit box contract, may, if the rent has not been paid within the time specified in said notice, open the box in the presence of a couple of employees of the bank and or notary public, who shall make an inventory of the contents of the box and place such contents in a this is nice here, sealed envelope, they're describing here, or other container in the name of the leasee. The bank shall then send notice to the administrator of the Uniform Unclaimed Property Act of 1997 for publication. C notes, after the bank has entered an abandoned safety deposit box and removed the contents thereof, it shall then hold such contents in the name of the leasee subject to a lien and privilege for the unpaid rent. So they could sell such to recover money, right?
If you can sell it, cool. If it's just keepsakes, then you hold it for ransom, sort of. I mean, it's a legal form of holding it for ransom. But what do they call it? Subject to lien. Yeah, we'll give back your old birth certificate and the photos of your great grandparents if you catch up on your rent. Maybe. It's kind of what I'm picking up from
storing any other costs, expenses, or other amounts provided in the lease by law. If such amounts are not paid in full within 1 year from the date it became abandoned, the bank may sell all or part of its contents by public, private, or judicial sale in accordance with Louisiana law. After the bank has entered an abandoned safety deposit box, remove the contents thereof, the bank may immediately release that abandoned safety deposit so they can start getting it back to work, making them money. And that was regarding banks, but there are other businesses. We see a lot of these storage facilities, and some of them have their own vault system. So make sure you pay your rent. They did a TV show about that as well back in the day.
Yeah, the old Storage Wars.
Yeah, Storage Wars. But once again, going through records and such of trying to find that, and maybe if they kept records over the past 20 years, and you said, well, I saw like you said, back in the 70s and 80s, I saw the coins, but they may have sold them, and maybe you could track to where, okay, that, in what year? Let's pick a year. In 2003, June was the last billing on that safety deposit box. Well, they've emptied it and moved on from that. So, and having the records to find that out, and that's where even people have called about life insurance. I know he had a life insurance policy. Can't find any information about the company. Well, you have to check financial records because how life insurance normally is paid? Monthly. And there should be some records of a billing in the banking statements to track that down to give you an idea of who was billing and if there may well be some benefits in that case. So
did you have
otherwise it's a hunt, treasure hunt.